Hi, my name's Rebecca, and welcome to my music studio. I'm so glad that you're here to make beautiful music with me. So, in my studio and on this channel, we spend a lot of time at the piano talking about things that maybe you never heard from your piano teacher growing up. These are things that, even in all of my years of studying music, I kind of had to teach myself. And that is how to sit down at the piano and every single time make beautiful music, even if you're a complete beginner. So this improvisation that I'm going to show you today is super easy and it is two-handed, but at the same time, it sounds amazing. It's very cinematic in feel, so it's very dramatic feeling. And it's just kind of a different feeling of an improvisation than other previous ones have been. If this interests you to be able to sit down at the piano and just be able to play with all different chord progressions, playing in different keys, learning along the way, please consider subscribing, commenting, sharing, all of those things. I would love to have you as a part of this music family. Thank you so much for those of you who have supported me by buying me a cup of coffee. It just absolutely blows me away. So thankful for that. It gets me through the day. If you would like to do that, you can just click on this little link right here. Otherwise, come join me at the piano and play along with me. Soon you'll be able to make beautiful music every time you sit down, which is, I think, such a gift. In today's improvisation, we're going to be focusing on two different keys to show you that this kind of improvisation goes for any key that you decide to play in. If you've never played in another key besides C major, I hope that you will check out this playlist where we're going all the way through the circle of fifths. We're playing in all of the different keys to show you that there's more than just white notes on the piano. It's so exciting. So come along with me, come to the piano, I'll show you exactly what these two keys are, how we're going to put both hands together, and soon you'll be playing right along with me. We are going to start out today in the key of C major. It's a good one to see what we're going to do first because we're playing between C and C, only the white notes. So I always like to begin with a scale. So for right now, we're just going to use one finger and play all of the notes between C and C to hear the key of C major and also to get our hands used to the key. So let's go from C to C. I always like to begin with a scale. It kind of gets our hands and our ears used to what we're going to be doing. So always plan to begin with a scale. I'll address actual scale fingering in later videos, but for now, one finger is just fine. So we're going to start with our left hand patterns. And today we're going to be doing something called a drone. And what a drone means, it can mean several things, but it means that you're just doing some notes that you are either holding down the whole time or just playing over and over again. Okay, it's kind of, think like a funeral dirge or something like that. So we're going to start by playing an octave. Now, if an octave is too much for your hands because you're really not used to playing yet, you only can do one finger and that would be perfectly fine. But for now, we're going to play an octave from C to C. Now, for some beginners, sometimes playing an octave can be a little bit awkward, especially if you have smaller hands. My hands are kind of on the smaller side. But we want to make sure that we're only hitting the two notes that we want to hit, not any notes in between. So if you find yourself hitting sometimes some notes here, either with your forefinger in the left hand or with your thumb, which is what typically happens like this, just think of turning your thumb just the tiniest bit this way so that this knuckle is a tiny bit bent, all right? Now, I want you to just kind of play this over and over again. And when you're done playing it, I want your hand to pop up into kind of a fist. We're going to call this a neutral hand position. If you just took your hand and relaxed it, do you see how my hands are not separated like this? Or any of the fingers kind of crazy together. They're just kind of relaxed. This is a neutral hand position. So we're going to practice playing the octave and coming to a neutral hand position. So just try that a few times. The reason that this is important is because I don't want you to make a mistake that I made early on. When I first was learning to play octaves, I would keep my hands in this stretched out position, and then everywhere I would go, my hand was always tight and it was full of tension. So you see my tendons right here. They shouldn't be so full of tension that they're sticking out all the time. I can feel the tension in between each of my fingers and on the top of my hand. So instead of having tension, we want to have nice and relaxed hands so that we play the octave, and when we come up, we're relaxed. If you find yourself playing an octave and then coming up and your hand is like this, you have some extra tension. So it may seem silly, but we're just going to go over and over again, playing the octave and trying this to see how relaxed we can get our hands to be. After you feel fairly comfortable with that, I'm going to now show you the order that we are going to play in. So now we have a nice relaxed octave, and I'm going to give you an order. Okay, so we're going to start with a C octave. This is the key of C major. So that means that when we play C, it is going to make our ear feel like we have come home. So the beginning and the ending of our song are going to be on a C chord. So we're going to just hit our C a few times, 4 times in a row. Then we're going to move down to an A and play that 4 times. And then we're going to go to an F and play that 4 times. And then we're going to play an A flat. So let's talk a little bit about what a flat is in case you're not sure. So a flat just means that you take a note, and instead of playing that note, you're going to play one note to the left of the piano, which is down a half step. So a lot of times flats are black notes. Not necessarily all the time though. If we set a C flat and we start here, the very next note to the left is a B. So instead of calling this a B, this could be a B or it could be a C flat, either way. But in this case, instead of playing an A, we're going to play an A flat. Now I told you at the beginning that the key of C major only has white notes, and that is true. So in order to get this A flat, we're actually going to be borrowing this from the key of C minor. So the key of C minor has 3 flats in it. It has a B flat, an E flat, and an A flat. So this A flat is being borrowed from the key of C minor. And it's going to give it a very dramatic feel to it when we go from the F to the A flat. And then we're going to go back to the C. Okay, so in order, we're doing C, A, F, A flat, back to C. Now the cool thing about chord progressions is that they can loop. So you don't always have to just do it one time. That'd be a very, very short song if you just did C, A, F, A flat, and ended on C. But the cool thing is that it continues to loop and you can do it as many times as you want to. The only rule is that you make sure that you end on our C so that our sound comes home. Now we are going to play with our hands together already. That seems like an intimidating task, especially if you've never done that before. However, we're going to do it really easily. So we're going to have our left hand prepared. This is middle C, so I'm going to stay right here in middle C. And we're going to do our little pattern. C, A, F, A flat, and back to C. But the right hand, I'm going to put on this C, which is the next C up from middle C. And I'm going to put the right hand in a 5-finger position. So we're not going to move anywhere except for here. We're going to do C, D, E, F, and G. So the first thing, before playing 2 hands at the same time, we're going to be alternating between left hand and right hand. So we're going to do our octave with our left hand, and and hold it down while our right hand then plays 3 notes. And it can be any of those 3 notes. Like that. So we're going to do this 2 times in a row. So I'm going to do C, 3 notes, C, 3 more notes. Then go to A, 3 notes, A, 3 notes, all the way through until we end at C again. If you want to make this already sound very dramatic and like a movie, very cinematic sounding, go ahead and use your pedal. Use your right foot on the right pedal and just hold it down and see what it does. And this is called the sustain pedal. This will help you to already get that cinematic feeling. So let's give this a try. 1, 2, ready, play. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. A. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and end on 1. So now it's time to play with 2 hands at the same time. And this time I'm going to give use of 2 octaves for our right hand. So starting on middle C, up to the next C, and then up to the next C. Now that seems like a lot. However, when we do our melodies, there is one thing that we need to remember. We don't want to be jumping too far for our ear to hear. Let me give you an example. So if I start on C and I jump around really far each time, number 1, it's difficult to control what your hand's doing, but number 2, listen to what it sounds like and how it kind of confuses your ear. So even though I began on C and ended on C, it still was too much for my ear to handle almost. When you think of a song, it all kind of stays within one general area at a time. So this time I'm going to do the same thing. I'm still going to travel between the 2 octaves, but I'll show you how to do it better where we're making use of notes that are right next to one another. Let's listen to the melody like this. That sounded like an actual tune where I could put some words to it and then sing along. That's a much better tune than where you're popping back and forth. So keep that in mind when we're playing. All right, so our left hand, we're going to be doing the dirge sound, okay? So it's going to be doing 1, 2, 3, 4, and then move. 1, 2, 3, 4, then move. 1, 2, 3, 4, move. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then end on 1. So I'm going to slow it down just a tiny bit, use my pedal, and now we're going to do both hands at the same time. Let's give this a try. All right, we're going to add one more element to this. And this is with use of my favorite note in any scale, and that is called the dominant. So the dominant is the 5th note in the scale. So in the key of C, if we count up 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we're on a G. So we're going to use this G to play 2 notes at a time. So I'm not choosing any 2 notes to play. I'm just making sure that all of the notes have a G in them, okay? So we could play a C and a G, D and a G, E and G, F and G, A and G, B and G, or C and G, okay? So if you think of this dominant as the one thing that you are adding to your melody, let's see how it changes things. Now this time, instead of doing 1, 2, 3, 4, this time I'm going to change it where I'm going to hold this down for 4 beats each. Okay, so I'm still going to hit them 2 times, but it's going to be 4 beats each, like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then hit it again. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's going to give you a little bit more control so that both hands can play at the same time. So now let's give this a try where we're adding a G to any of the melody notes. This doesn't have to be long and complicated and doing finger aerobics over here, but if you're adding just that one note, listen to how much more harmony is in this tune. Let's give it a try. And you'll notice I also started with the dirge sound because I just think it sounds really cool to do that. The last little thing that I think you're going to enjoy very much is to take the dirge down an octave. Take the dirge down here from middle C down an octave. It sounds very rich, and it kind of reminds me of a bagpipe because they have those low sounds in the bottom. And then our A flat. All right, so let's give this a try now, including our dominant note in the right hand, along with other notes between C and C and C and C. Let's give this a try, and I'm going to start with 2 measures of just our C octave in the bottom. Here we go. Now I promised you another key. So we're going to delve into the world of sharps now. So we already talked about what flats are, where you take a note and instead of playing that note, you play one note to the left of it down the piano. But for a sharp, we are going to do the same thing, except instead of playing one note, we will play one note to the right. So in the case of this F, we would play an F sharp. So if you've never played with sharps before, go ahead and check out this video along with others that I have listed under the Circle of Fifths playlist, and it will show you how to play in lots of different keys that have sharps in them. They seem like they are scary and maybe you don't feel as comfortable, but the more you start practicing in these keys, the more that you are going to be able to do on the piano, and it sounds great because sharp keys sound different than flat keys. That's just the reality of it. So today, the key that I have chosen is the key of E major. So if you look on the Circle of Fifths right now, I do have a free downloadable below if you would like to follow along with me. But if we start at C major, which is at the top of the circle of fifths, and then we go clockwise down the circle of fifths, we go from C to G to D to A, and here we are at E. And E has 4 sharps in it. So if you go down to the bottom of the page and you look at the order of sharps, the first 4 are the sharps in the key of E major. So here are the sharps first. So we have F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, and D sharp. So if you look at the pattern on the piano, we have in the set of 3 black notes, we're playing the first 2 black notes, and in the set of 2, we're playing both of them. Okay, so here are the 4 sharps. So instead of playing F, C, G, and D, we will play the sharps instead. So let's go ahead and play the scale of E major. And I chose E major because this is an intimidating one for a lot of people, especially beginners. But we're not going to be scared off by sharps. So let's start with E. And when we get to each of those notes, like F is next, instead of playing the F, we'll play the F sharp. So let's try this. E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, D sharp, and E. And then we come back down. So the way I explain sharps and flats to my students is when we're playing a scale or when we're improvising in any particular key, I want you to think of the notes that you're not allowed to touch as lava notes, okay? So these 4 are the ones we're not allowed to play. If you do, they sound weird, all right? And I want you to think of the game The Floor is Lava, because that's really popular in my studio. And in The Floor is Lava, if you touch the lava or the floor, then you get burned. So we're going to think of these 4 notes as getting burned, all right? So now that we know how to play in our right hand, we're going to go through our dirge pattern in our left hand. So we're going to start the same way as we started in the key of C major, and we're going to start with an E, all right? So that's our first one. So we have our E octave, and then we're going to a C sharp. All right, now down to an A. And this is the one that we're borrowing, so instead of a C sharp now, we're going to do a C. This is our borrowed chord. And now we're back to E. So we're going to do the same pattern that we did with our C major chords with E now. So we're going to alternate between left hand and right hand. So we want our right hand to be in a 5-finger pattern. So our 5-finger pattern for E major is E, F sharp, G sharp, A, and B. All right, so that feels a little bit different if you just go through that because there are 2 black notes in there. So you get to choose between any of those 5 notes. All right, so let's give this a try, alternating. And this time we are doing 2 times of hitting the E before moving on to our C sharp. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. C sharp. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. A. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. C. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and end on 1. All right, it's now time to expand our horizons with our right hand, and this is 1 note only. So the same rules apply as in C major, where we don't want to pop around too much. We want to keep our melody kind of within a hand's breadth of one another, but now we're going to be adding our left hand together as well as doing a melody in the right hand. So let's give this a try. So now is the point where we're going to do our 2 steps where we lower our left hand an octave. So I was already playing here, but I think it's going to sound more dramatic if I move my hand all the way down here. You probably have never played this low. As a beginner, I don't know that I ever even touched any of the notes that were down here. But with a dirge sound in the left hand side, it sounds really good to play all the way down here. In fact, playing this A is the lowest note on the piano. You're going to get to play the lowest note on the piano, which I think is really cool. That just doesn't happen a lot. Also, it doesn't happen a lot where we play the top one, but we're not going to do that today. All right, so we're going to lower our left hand by an octave. We're going to keep our right hand over here, but now we need to figure out what the dominant chord is, or the dominant note. So remember, this is the 5th note of the scale, so let's count to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That means a B. So that means our choices are B with any of the other notes in the scale. E, F sharp, G sharp, A, and then C sharp, D sharp, and then back to E. So any of those choices are fair game. And then I'm going to switch it to doing 2 full octaves of 4 beats each. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 in my left hand. And also, because I just like it and it sounds like a bagpipe to me, I'm going to start with those 8 beats of just doing E in the left hand. So let's give this a try and see what kind of a melody we can come up with. That has a very different feel to it, doesn't it, than our C major song. So I also like to think, what kind of feelings does this evoke in me? So playing a dirge in the left hand as a pattern sounds a whole lot different than doing something like arpeggios, or even doing what I like to do a lot, which are representative chords with the octave and then the 5th in the middle. That sounds very different than hitting this low and strong octave in the left-hand side. So when you're doing that kind of pattern in the left-hand side, that's actually called a drone, where you're droning the notes back and forth over and over again. I tend to call it dirge playing because it is like a funeral dirge to me, but just to correct myself a little bit, it's actually called a drone. So this is a very different kind of improvisation than something like the normal flowy playing that we tend to do on this channel. But sometimes it just hits the mark for where I'm feeling emotionally. So I like to play the piano after a long, hard day. Sometimes, depending on what kind of emotion I'm feeling, it really affects the way that I'm playing. So sometimes I'm feeling that I need this beautiful, flowy, almost ethereal sound in my life. It just kind of soothes my soul after a difficult day. But then there are times when I just need to bang it out on the piano. I do hesitate to say bang. I tell my students all the time, we do not ever bang on the piano, but there's something different about hitting those strong octaves in the left-hand side and just having a lot of strength there, really playing loud in my left hand. That to me gets out rage. My husband calls it rage playing. And that's what it really is sometimes when I just need the drone in my life. So I hope that this is something that you can use in your own playing. Maybe it's something brand new, but it really fits into the repertoire of being able to improvise in all the different keys. Let me know in the comments below if using a drone pattern in your left hand is the first time that you've ever heard of this or ever tried it. It really opens up a whole new world of improv. And it's not that hard either once you get the hang of it, realizing it is just two notes, and that's all. Keep practicing and let me know if there's anything that you are struggling with or you'd like me to dive a little bit deeper into, and I would love to do that for you. Make sure that you stick with me, and until then, I will see you in the next video.